Hello, and welcome to the fourth webinar of the series for the Home Visiting Needs Assessment, Exploration and Planning Tool, presented by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Early Childhood Home Visiting Unit, and MPHI. The Exploration and Planning Tool is used across communities in Michigan to identify home visiting needs and capacity to expand home visiting services. By the end of this webinar, you will have the information you need to complete steps 4 and 5. This webinar is recorded so that you can view it and share it as needed. That said, the team at MPHI is available to answer any questions that arise. To ask a question during or after this webinar, you can use the box just below the video. Let's begin. Today we will cover two topics. First, I will give an overview of Step 4 and its purpose. Then I will describe the steps necessary to complete Step 4 of the exploration and planning process. Second, I will give an overview of Step 5 and its purpose, and describe the steps necessary to complete Step 5 of the exploration and planning process. Steps 4 and 5 are combined in this webinar because they will both be guided by data collected through a survey of all home visiting programs in the state. At the end of today's webinar, I will describe an activity to make sure your list of home visiting programs is up to date. The availability of evidence-based home visiting varies across Michigan. Some communities have many programs and models available to families, while others have more limited access. The capacity of home visiting programs also varies across and within communities. Having a clear understanding of what the continuum of home visiting looks like in your community will help identify existing capacity as well as gaps in services. Home visiting programs also sit at the intersection of families and communities and provide critical linkages between families and community service systems. Home visitors can offer families a point of access to healthcare services, mental and behavioral health services, developmental services, services for domestic violence, and services to meet families' basic needs. Identifying existing linkages between home visiting and other community services provides an opportunity to identify any gaps. Once you have completed steps 1 through 3, you are ready to begin step 4, assess reach and quality of home visiting. At this time, you will also complete step 5, assess reach and quality of services for families. These steps will be completed concurrently because they are both informed by the same set of survey data. Before we dive into step 4, let's take a moment to discuss any lessons learned from step 3. What key learnings did you take away from step 3? What did the available data suggest about risk and health outcomes in your community? What about geographic differences or demographic disparities? Take a moment to pause the webinar and reflect on these questions either individually or with your team. Your reflections will help inform your work moving into the next steps of the assessment. Step 4 of the exploration and planning process focuses on assessing the reach and quality of home visiting programs available in your local community. This step is essential to understanding the current capacity of home visiting programs to reach areas of your community facing especially high levels of risk. This will help you identify if it makes sense to expand home visiting in your community. In this step, you will also assess how well existing programs are reaching various groups and the quality of services provided. The purpose of Step 4 is to gain a complete and accurate understanding of the landscape of home visiting in your local community. Through this step, you will determine what home visiting programs currently exist, if existing home visiting programs reach all high-risk communities, and how well they meet the needs of families in those communities. To achieve this goal, you will create a catalog of existing home visiting programs in your county or counties. MPHI will survey those home visiting programs and provide you with data that you will use to answer a series of questions about the reach and capacity of those programs. You will also use those data to describe the quality of home visiting programs in your county or counties. Your discussion and conclusions will be entered into the online tool located in REDCap. You will be given a tour of the online tool later in this webinar. Before you begin creating a catalog of all the home visiting programs in your community, let's create a shared definition of home visiting for the purpose of this assessment. We will be using the criteria set forth in Michigan's home visiting law to define home visiting and identify programs for inclusion in the catalog. The law states a home visiting program uses a voluntary service delivery strategy that is carried out in relevant settings, primarily in the homes of families, with children ages 0 to 5 years old and pregnant women. A link to Michigan's home visiting law is provided on the bottom of the slide for more information. With that definition in mind, you can see there are several home visiting models in use throughout Michigan that fit the criteria and should be included in your community's catalog. Every program implementing one of these models should be identified and included in this process. A few programs that do not meet our shared definition for home visiting for this assessment should not be included in your catalog. Those include Early On, Healthy Start, and other intervention programs. Now that you know what types of programs to include in the home visiting catalog, let's talk about some of the information MPHI will collect for each program using an online survey. There are 3 categories of information to include in the catalog: program administration, service delivery, and service population. The program administration category includes name, model, staffing, quality, funding, and wait list. This information provides an overview of the size and type of program. The service delivery category includes service area, barriers, visit frequency and duration, enrollment, and retention. This information describes additional information about the program's capacity to provide services and any challenges it experiences. Finally, the service population category includes target population and family characteristics. This information helps identify which groups are included in the target population for existing home visiting programs. Together, this information will be used to gain a better understanding of the current capacity of home visiting programs in each community and potential gaps to meet the home visiting needs of high-risk populations. Multiple organizations play a role in the successful completion of Step 4. In this graphic, you can see the responsibility of various agencies throughout this step. First, MDHHS will get us started by creating a list of home visiting programs by county. Those lists will be provided to each agency leading this exploration and planning process to be reviewed and updated. This step is critical to assure all home visiting programs are included, giving an accurate picture of existing home visiting availability in each community. In the next step, MPHI will send a survey tool to all the home visiting programs. After the home visiting programs respond to the survey, MPHI will analyze the survey data and send the results back to each community. Communities will use the survey results to answer questions about the reach and quality of their home visiting programs. Your first step in this process will be to update the list of home visiting programs in your community. This list is available to you in the online tool. To make sure that you are collecting accurate data for the assessment, it is critical that you have an updated list of home visiting programs. As you review your current list, make sure there are no missing programs. If you do discover that a program is missing from your list, please add it. You will also want to clarify if any agencies on the list are administering more home visiting programs than are listed. If they are administering more than one program, you can include it in the list. Check to make sure that none of the programs on your list have closed since they were originally added. If you do find that a program has closed, you should remove it from the list. This is also an appropriate time to check that you have current contact information for programs. Finally, if there is anyone else who should review your list before it's sent over to MPHI, please make sure they have a few days to look over it before you send it. Please update the list as soon as possible, clearly mark all changes, and return the list to MPHI. MPHI will send the survey and analyze responses. Once you receive the survey results from MPHI, you will use them to answer the questions you see on this slide. Many of these questions in this section will require a quantitative response in the online tool. You will also be required to enter some qualitative answers based on the data describing how well home visiting programs are reaching high-risk groups. As you answer the questions, be sure to describe how you came to your conclusions. Once you have answered the questions about home visiting programs, you will shift your focus to answering questions about how well home visiting programs in your community are reaching target populations and other high-risk populations. For programs like the Maternal Infant Health Program that cannot set a cap on enrollment, how many families can be served? If more resources were made available, how many families could be reached by home visiting in your local community? This question will require you to look back at your demographic data to identify how many families with children under 5 years of age you have in your community, as well as how many of those families are low income. Next, you will want to look at how well families are being served. Are certain groups being reached while others are being left out, either in terms of geography or population group? As you work through these questions, remember to describe how you came to conclusions based on your review of the data. Finally, at the end of Step 4, you will come to some higher-level conclusions about the home visiting programs in your local community based on the survey results. The tool in REDCap will provide space for you to enter your interpretations and conclusions from your findings. Again, be sure to describe how you came to your conclusions in terms of survey results or other data available to you. The work you do in Step 4 will lay the groundwork for Step 5, so take time to review your answers and make sure all your thoughts are captured in the online tool in REDCap. Once you have completed Step 4, you are ready to jump into Step 5, which is identifying the reach and quality of services for families that partner with home visiting programs. The survey administered to answer questions in Step 4 will also include questions that you will use to answer the questions in Step 5. The purpose of this step is to gain a better understanding of the reach and quality of referral networks or linkages that exist between home visiting programs and other programs that serve children and families in your local community. Home visiting programs can receive referrals from a variety of types of organizations, and robust referral networks can help ensure that every family who wants home visiting learns about home visiting in their area. Additionally, home visiting programs make referrals to a wide variety of other programs, including critical support services. Step 5 will identify what those incoming and outgoing referral networks currently look like, where they are strong, and where they have gaps. As noted, two categories of information are needed to describe referral networks for home visiting programs. The first category is incoming referrals, or referrals made to home visiting programs by an outside organization. In order to describe incoming referrals, it will be important to understand which agencies make referrals to each home visiting program, the services those agencies provide, and the frequency with which they make referrals. The second category is outgoing referrals, or referrals made by home visiting programs to an outside support service on behalf of families in the program. Here we want to understand which agencies home visiting programs refer families to, including the agency's names, the services they provide, and how frequently the home visiting programs make referrals to them. We also want an indicator of quality and reliability of services provided by each referral agency. The survey referenced in Step 4 will also include a section on referrals, both incoming and outgoing. Each home visiting program in your community that completes the survey will identify up to 10 sources of incoming referrals. They will also identify up to 20 agencies that they go to for outgoing referrals. Based on the data entered by each program, MPHI will create network maps. These maps will be provided to each local community for review and to draw conclusions about local referral networks. On this slide, you can see examples of the types of network maps that will be created by MPHI for use by local communities. The network maps provide a visual representation of the relationship between organizations in a referral network and are intended to make it easier to understand the connections that currently exist. The map may also assist in identifying any gaps in the referral network. The blue rectangles represent agencies that make incoming referrals to home visiting programs. The green circles represent agencies to which home visiting programs make outgoing referrals. In this example, you will notice that some home visiting programs may have incoming and outgoing referrals with different agencies, and sometimes their referrals overlap with the same agencies. One program may get incoming referrals and make outgoing referrals with an agency like Head Start, while another program only makes outgoing referrals to Head Start. When observing these similarities and differences, you will want to consider whether the differences signify a difference in target population needs or a potential gap in the referral network. The meaning of network maps is very dependent on local context, so discussion and interpretation is very important in making these data meaningful. As you review the network maps, you will answer these questions in the online tool in REDCap. The questions focus on what types of services are connected to home visiting, what gaps exist, any noticeable patterns within the network, and how these networks can be improved. As you provide answers to each question, be sure to explain how you arrived at your conclusions. When you're ready, you can enter your findings for steps 4 and 5 online in the same REDCap tool you used for steps 1 through 3. You will upload your updated program lists into REDCap, along with your key takeaways regarding reach and quality of home visiting and other services in your community. Let's take a look at REDCap now. Once you've logged into the system and selected the home visiting project and the county you wish to enter data for, you will find the Step 4, Assess the Reach and Quality of Home Visiting instrument. In this form, you can upload your updated list of home visiting programs where prompted and enter information into the text fields provided. For tracking purposes, be sure to mark the form complete when done, and don't forget to save. And remember, you can save your notes and return at any time throughout the process. When you're ready for Step 5, you have a couple of options. You can either select Step 5 out of the list of instruments on the record homepage where you had found Step 4, or you can navigate to Step 5 directly from Step 4 by selecting Save and Go to Next Form. In this form, please enter your findings in the text fields provided. As always, please mark the form complete when you finish and save the form early and often. Now that we have completed our discussion on steps 4 and 5, let's go over an activity you can use to increase the survey response rate among your home visiting programs. This brainstorming activity will help you think about what you can do to make sure home visiting programs in your community take the survey. A high response rate is important because you want your data to be representative of your whole community. If programs do not take the survey, gaps in information will make it difficult to fully understand the needs of your community. So, what can you do to help ensure programs take the survey? First, think about what you can do to set the stage before the survey is sent out. What information can you share with program staff so they know and understand how important it is that they complete the survey? Once you have brainstormed strategies to put in place before the survey goes out, you can shift your thinking to strategies that will help your response rate once the survey is in the field. It may help to designate a contact person who program staff can reach out to in case they have questions while they are taking the survey. Who might be best to encourage each program to complete the survey? Finally, what are some strategies you can use just before the survey closes to get those remaining programs to complete the survey? Keep in mind that people often want to know what's in it for them. Take a few moments now to pause the webinar and develop a few strategies that can be implemented by your team to support a high response rate. Now that you know how to complete steps 4 and 5 of the Exploration and Planning tool, let's go over some next steps. At this point, you are ready to attend the webinar for Step 6. As we discussed on the activity slide, be sure to update the online tool for your county or counties so you're working with accurate information about your local community. Also, start to reach out to your home visiting colleagues to support survey participation. Remember that you can reach out to your coach as needed for technical assistance. They are ready to answer any questions you have about the exploration and planning process. Finally, get ready for the last step of the assessment. This step will require a meeting with your partners, so you will want to ensure this meeting is scheduled well in advance to avoid scheduling conflicts. As you continue in this process, you will have questions and needs. We are here to help. Reach out to your coach anytime for support. We're committed to learning as much as we can about need and capacity to expand home visiting across our state, and we are committed to your success. Thank you.